Hey guys, Mac here with the Circle, and today we'll talk about something that's going to piss a lot of people off to no end. There will be a lot of angry comments, many people will look at the title and downvote the video straight away. But for those who do stay and watch the actual video, today we're going to talk about 8th edition and the problems I'm currently seeing in it. Now, for those who are new to this channel, don't just think I'm a 7th ed lover. I've actually done numerous videos shredding that edition too. No, my distaste comes from the fact that 8th edition is a clunky mess thrown together in a weekend and marketed as a game which was 2.5 years in the making when it clearly wasn't. I'm quite certain that it really only got off the ground this very year. Now, throughout this video I'm going to make claims, I'm going to give opinions, I don't want to go into sourcing and evidence for a few reasons. Reasons like the fact that people who downvote these videos, they never look at the sources, they don't care. I literally can show them every source they want and then they just say, I don't believe you. So what does it matter? Also, the people who watch my videos long term, they do know where I'm coming from. And lastly, everything I'm going to talk about is clearly demonstrable. You can go into any Games Workshop, you can go in and watch a game anywhere, play 8th edition, and you'll see a lot of the things I'm going to talk about today. Now, with that out of the way, what do I actually think of 8th edition? Oh, it's alright I suppose. 2nd, 3rd and 5th were all better editions of the game in my opinion. But they were all quite different versions of the game. 8th edition is an attempt to shake up the formula by implementing a similar system as Age of Sigmar, which is a game that is divisive to say the least, and it takes risks. 8th edition is a game designed for people with a short attention span and basic goals. People who want to put models on the board, not fuck around with list building and just want to roll dice. I think for those people, it's a pretty good edition. For those of us who like a little more depth in our Warhammer, it's consequently a downgraded edition. Now, I'm using broad terminology here, because people can fit into both camps, and people all have different tastes. But I'm making this call because this is the clearest way I can put it. Anyway, enough of that, let's talk about the flaws in the system. 1. Despite supposedly extensive playtesting, the release of this new edition was accompanied by numerous loopholes, mistakes, and rules and wording problems, let alone things that break common sense. For example, you have index fails, like Ahriman on disc loses all the benefits of his aura as a commander, as he's no longer infantry. He gains none of the bonuses of demons, and gains all the downsides. Fabius Bile can't use a transport because he doesn't have the Legion keyword in his title. Units like Thousand Suns Rubric Marines are not immune to morale. Saint Celestine lacks the keyword limiting her to a 1 per army character, so you can technically take multiples of her. There's also rulebook fails, like Psychic rules. Yes, smite, smite, smite for all the juicy mortal wounds. Armies like the Tau and Necrons, they don't have Deny the Witch, really, and have plenty of units that will suffer greatly from said mortal wounds. So really, in a way it's just as bad as 7th edition, but in totally different ways. Core concept fails also exist, like the multiple movement values, which of course means having to really take notice of each unit if you played a varied Tyranid force, for example. I mean, good luck not making mistakes when you've got 20 different movement values on the board. There's also problems with other core concepts, such as measuring weapons off any point on a model. The wingtips of flyers, exhausts of tanks, tip of the banner on an infantry model. Basically, it's an immersion-breaking concept, especially when you see how some people deploy their armies now. For example, there's people deploying an Imperial Guard artillery line with their backs to a building in order to fit better onto the table for max advantage, and somehow they fire perfect shots. Curve the bullet indeed. Also, things like rhinos charging killer cans and actually winning the combat. Now, there's also a problem with shooting, which is another core concept. The funny part with shooting is things like templates, for example. Some people were happy when they went, others were not. One of the things I find funny is that some vehicles, like the Land Raider Redeemer, are now better at anti-aircraft with their flamers than they are at killing infantry. Work that one out. Point number 2. The tactical depth of the game has become shallow as a pond. If this is an improvement or a bad thing, well, that's entirely up to the individual. An example of this is unit placement, where once you had to use your brain and place weapons and characters wisely, now you can place units in big, tactically retarded blob, and it's just as effective as a force which spreads their numbers out and deploys wisely. Point 3. Games Workshop invalidating all books at the drop of a hat, even books only a month or two old, and then charging people for new books with the release of the edition, which are the equivalent of war scrolls and compendiums in fantasy, except fantasy players got those for free when Age of Sigmar dropped. Yeah, it's offset slightly by the fact that Games Workshop gave a sort of cashback offer for people who bought books only a month or two prior to 8th edition releasing, but still, I think we can all say it was a dick move. In line with this, point 4. It's a living rule set. Which has already released costly index books, is in the middle of releasing hardcover codexes, and which by definition will constantly outdate all source material in an indeterminable time frame. If a codex is a clusterfuck, will be completely rewritten in 6 months? Will it make you spend your money again? For a faction like Genestealer cults, probably not. But for Papa Smurf and the Space Marines, no way would they let that product ever languish. Point 5. The move towards simple list building. There are no, as yet, alternate rules which allow the detailed customization of wargear for units, especially characters. Instead, all characters are essentially minor special characters, available in a very vanilla flavour with literally 1 or 2 upgrades at most on many characters. Gone are the days of making something your own for more narrative players. Instead, your Marine Chaplain is identical to the next guy's Chaplain. Point 6. Power levels and points. Whilst close, they do not sync up. There is a massive imbalance reported by many players. This is, of course, only a problem if you give a fuck about balance. If you don't, well, huzzah! Since 40k has always had a problem with balance, I guess this issue is only a minor one, really. Point 7. The only style of play that seems to actually have been thought out is Matchplay, and that's frontline gaming's kiss of death to the hobby. Basically, the worst of the cancerous tournament behaviour has been given the seal of approval. If you don't believe me, go out and see what lists are actually winning competitions. I'll wait right here. Point 8. The first turn conundrum. What is this? Well, it turns out that the odds of winning are ridiculously one-sided in favour of the player who wins first turn. How much so? About 95%. Again, don't take my word for it, go out and actually have a look. Now, we've reached the end of the video. If this is true to form with other 8th edition videos I've made, I will no doubt have plenty of haters just hating on me for approaching the topic. You know what? That's fine. Sometimes people just have their mind made up, and no matter what my points are, no matter how much sense I talk, someone will always find a fault. They will always find something to gnaw at. And in that way, I kind of have to sympathise with Games Workshop. Although it's also worth pointing out, I never promised the world to my viewers. They did. They're a multi-million-dollar multinational company in fact. They can do with some constructive criticism. And at least when I go on Facebook and sites like that, and I look at people giving them critiques, they get constructive criticism. The people who come over on YouTube onto this channel, they just say you're a fuckhead and move on most of the time. Now, bad jokes aside, I see potential for 8th edition to appease many people, but I also see a lot of flaws that must be addressed if they ever want to actually live up to their promise of being the best edition ever. I think they can do it, but it won't happen so long as they're rushing to produce content. Quality is much preferred to quantity, and in that regard they have a long way to go. Anyway, this is only a 10-minute video, but I'm sure it's going to generate a bit of talk. I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Leave your thoughts and comments below. I'll meet you down there. See you all next time.